Hey everyone, welcome back to the podcast. Katie cannot record with us this time, schoolwork, so it's just me and Michael, or Michael and me. And this week we're going to be covering something I saw in the news. As I looked up, on CNN, BBC, all that, I could only find the source on NBC News. Loophole lets criminals buy untraceable ghost guns online. It's basically a legal loophole that means anyone, criminals included, can order untraceable weapons online without a background check because it's shipped in parts. So it's technically not a gun when it's shipped. So yeah, don't have to pass a background check, and it's totally untraceable because it does not have a serial number, and criminals have been taking advantage of this already. When I was watching on TV, I believe they said they made $1 billion, uh, like in a day or overnight, like a 24-hour period. So, the guy Jeff Rawson, NBC News correspondent, uh, contacted former ATF agent Rick Vasquez in Virginia, sent him a kit, had him assemble it, and basically verify that this is a fully functioning lethal semi-automatic firearm that has no serial number and is therefore untraceable. Senator Chuck Schumer has said that he's going to try to pass legislation to get this issue fixed, get these things off the internet. However, he believes the NRA is going to be very unreasonable and hinder legislation. And the NRA has had no comment despite repeated requests for their input. So that's the article, NBC News. So what do you think about it, Michael?
I'm surprised it's not getting more coverage.
Yeah.
Because I remember, whenever 3D printers were first becoming a thing, there was a huge, discussion on the internet over, what that would entail for people printing out guns using 3D printers. And that's obviously significantly less of an issue than people actually just going online and buying gun parts to be shipped to them. Because you
Yeah.
need a 3D printer to print a gun.
Yeah.
Whereas this, anyone can do it. Anyone
Yeah.
who has access to a computer, you know? So I'm surprised
Yeah.
it's not getting more coverage.
I was really shocked. I thought Fox, CNN, MSNBC, BBC, I thought someone would have something on it, especially Fox. Like they typically come to the defense of gun owners,
Yeah.
guns. Yeah. So
And it really does make me wonder, who would defend this? Because it just seems completely untenable.
yeah. Well,
But,
when I was doing research and found this article, I came across one or two like ultra libertarian websites. It had like the Patriot with a trifold hat holding an M16, and it's like do not let the government have a say in our guns. All about rights and extremely small government, and basically said I found one site that was like how to get various parts that are untraceable, how to machine your own parts, like the simplest parts to make with very simple equipment and materials. So this has been going on a while. This is actually just kind of the most recent and easy way to get untraceable firearms. But it's not only criminals, it's like radical libertarians as well.
yeah, it's kind of scary to think about.
Yeah. I think it goes without saying we're both very opposed to this. This is ridiculous.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and Katie is very, she's very iffy on guns. She's absolutely against this too.
Yeah, I think any sensible person would be. Unless you are, absolutely radical.
Yeah. Like this just seems like a common sense thing. Yeah. So, I guess on the issue of gun control and just the general scale, what do you feel about like what guns should be allowed, shouldn't be?
As far as gun control goes, I guess, I would say it really matters to look at the gun culture of a certain country. because like in Switzerland, they have a very good gun control culture, I guess. So because of that, the Swiss government can trust its citizens with weapons, and
Hmm.
they don't have a very high homicide rate. Like they have one of the lowest homicide rates in Europe, even though they have relatively loose gun control laws. Whenever it
Hmm.
comes to bullets, on the other hand, they are a bit more strict. So you can
Yes.
make the argument that that's why the homicide rate is so low. But case in point is that gun culture matters. The
Yeah.
United States, unfortunately, doesn't have a good gun culture whatsoever.
We're gun crazy. We would buy like like saws, yeah, like Barrett's, like we'd buy anything if we could get our hands on it, honestly.
Yeah. So, like, if you look at the empirical evidence in the United States, the the states that have the loosest gun control laws, like Alaska, Alabama, Louisiana, etc., all of which are Republican states, they have the highest homicide rates in the country.
Yeah.
Whereas generally, like in the Northeast, where gun control is a bit stricter, the gun deaths per person is generally a lot lower. But
Yeah. And a common counter argument is a lot of people reference Chicago, but yesterday when we weren't totally trying to do this and computer died, what did you say about the whole Chicago thing?
um, but in Chicago, like a lot of people just drive over into Wisconsin or Indiana to just buy guns because it's only a 45-minute ride away. Or if
Hmm.
you live in, Wisconsin or Indiana already, you can just drive into Chicago and sell them on the black market and get a lot of money. And
Hmm.
there was actually a study done researching like guns related in gang deaths,
Hmm.
and they found that a significant portion of gun related gang violence came from Wisconsin and Indiana, unsurprisingly, from the neighboring states. And it's just because those two states have very loose gun restriction, but obviously, right wingers are going to say, oh, well, Chicago has really strict gun laws, so proof that it doesn't work.
Yeah.
Boom. And I mean, it's ridiculous.
Yeah.
It's not holistic. It doesn't look at the whole picture.
Yeah. Yeah. That's actually something I never thought of. Yeah, it's really easy to just go out of the state. Like people do that with fireworks too. Like, it's totally a normal thing when fireworks are banned in your state. People just drive across the border into the next state that has them legal, and just have them in your trunk. And I mean, people do it with all sorts of things.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when it comes to like what kind of guns we do think should be allowed, but think we think shouldn't be allowed. Neither of us are, the Republican straw man. All guns should be, a no. Guns are mean. We're not like that. Personally, I'm fine with shotguns and like long rifles for home defense, hunting,
Yeah.
pistols, handguns, since they're used in a majority of homicides and they're very easily concealable. I guess a requirement would be you have to have a shotgun or a long rifle for a certain amount of time to prove you're responsible. Maybe something like that. Assault style weapons, I'm absolutely against. I know it's not an assault rifle, which is fully automatic, but you can still shoot an AR-15 pretty quickly. I've shot an AR-15, and I was able to shoot it surprisingly fast with almost no recoil. I mean, I literally thought after shooting it, I was like, I shouldn't be able to have this.
Yeah.
Very well. We've been friends forever. I used to be really, Republican gun happy, and then I actually shot some, and I was like, this has really changed my outlook.
Mm.
But yeah, and 30 rounds as fast as you can pull the trigger, that's ridiculous. And 30 rounds is a standard mag, not to mention the 60 round drum, the 120 round double drum that you can even get for handguns. I would definitely be against high capacity magazines as well.
Yeah.
But long rifles, shotguns, handguns. Maybe after a year or so of owning a normal gun
Mm.
or rifle or shotgun, I would be in support of that.
Yeah.
And of course, your standard background check and you know, yeah. What about you?
Um, well, I think we obviously need to oppose the shoulder thing that goes up. That first and foremost should be addressed. If you don't
Oh,
know what video I'm referencing, I'll just link it in the description. Um,
yeah.
but anyways, seriously, barrel shrouds should actually be banned. I think because I
Oh,
mean it does, put a limit on how long you can fire a weapon without it overheating. Um,
yeah.
but anyways, regarding I guess general gun laws, like
Hmm.
stand your ground states versus like right to flee states and stuff like that or whatever. I'm generally against stand your ground because it applies to both public and private scenarios.
Yeah.
I think duty to flee is a lot better, which is where you are legally, have a duty to flee the scenario if you're in danger before you pull out your gun and start firing, because then it's just going to be like the Alamo.
Yeah. I, yeah. On one hand, I do feel like you should have the right to defend yourself. If someone is threatening your life, you should have the right to stand up for yourself and fight back.
Mm.
But on the other hand, I just know someone's going to be like this paranoid vigilante who's going to be like, it was dark outside and they gave me a look.
Yeah, and
So,
that's the great thing about duty to flee. You still have a right to do it if you feasibly cannot escape the scenario. But I mean, if you have, every opportunity to get out of there without firing shots, then, you
yeah.
should have a responsibility to do that.
Yeah. I've never heard Duty to Flee. Granted, all my family watches is Fox News. So,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, that's definitely a good idea. Another thing, in addition to barrel shrouds, which, kind of like the water jacket you'd see on like a 1917 Browning to keep it cool, suppressors. There is
Mhm.
literally no need for a suppressor. Like, like you buy a gun, okay. You buy some, really cool attachments like a laser sight, red dot, okay. You buy a suppressor. I'm like, what are you doing that you don't need to be heard doing? That's that's completely unnecessary for any legal purpose. You
Yeah.
know, and in a free society, I do think the question should be why should you not have it rather than why should you have it?
Hmm.
But I think the argument can be pretty well made why someone should not have a suppressor or a rifle that can shoot 30 rounds as fast as you can pull the trigger and has virtually no recoil. Yeah, I mean, as long as you've got it like tucked into your shoulder.
Yeah.
Like, I think those arguments can be pretty easily made.
Hmm.
Yeah, and something I'd actually be willing to compromise on in regards to assault style weapons. I've shot a lot of guns before, and I can admit, it's an enjoyable hobby. And one compromise I'd be willing to make is you wouldn't be allowed to have them in your private home. You wouldn't be allowed to personally own one, but a licensed, official, reputable gun range would be allowed to have them. So you can enjoy them in a safe, controlled environment.
Mm.
That's a compromise I'd be willing to make. So that pretty much covers the gun control uh, our, discussion as well as the loophole. One last thing we have to cover. We have to cover it. Betsy DeVos, Betsy DeVos, DeVos. I don't know. Um, thinks schools should have guns because grizzly bears. Yeah, I mean, I gotta agree. I've been attacked by like at least three grizzly bears in my urban school. It's a real problem. That and the NRA has. I think it was after the Sandy Hook massacre. that they said if the teachers had guns, this wouldn't have happened. Which, oh my gosh, I think they're forgetting what school is like. Like, I, I mean, high schools have fights. I mean, unless you go like a really like any like normal public high school, we'll have a few fights. And there are teachers out there who, you know, like college campuses. People have said, if college students were allowed to have guns, yeah, let's give frat boy who's drunk half the time a gun. Let's give teachers who have to, in high school where half the kids are morons who shouldn't be there, don't want to be there. Yeah, let's give a teacher a gun and, hope she doesn't get sick of those morons. I'm not saying most teachers would, but, you know, it's just not a good idea. Now, armed police officers, professional police personnel, I would approve of that. I had those in my high school, and everything was fine.
Mm.
Yeah, but guns in schools, more guns is not always better. And I think like 10 schools in America have to deal with grizzly bears on like a regular basis.
Mm.
Yeah, just yeah. What's your take on this whole thing, the Betsy DeVos grizzly bear thing?
I don't think there's really anything to further elaborate on. It's just ridiculous.
Yeah, just further proof she should not be Secretary of Education. Never mind the fact that Elizabeth Warren absolutely humiliated her.
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty much proved she has no experience, no qualifications, doesn't even know like existing rules. Didn't even say she would enforce the existing rules. She would review them.
Mm.
And also showed that she didn't even know how much money she and her family had donated.
Yeah.
So, not to mention, she's a fundamentalist.
Mm.
Wants to break down some of the regulations. This is probably one of the worst picks.
Yeah, I'm really surprised that she got through. Like I thought at least she would get, voted against by the Republicans. Like there would be a
Two,
few Republicans who would vote against her.
two
But
did.
yeah, that's it.
Yeah,
Because it's just like one of those things like no matter what your political ideology was, I think we could all unilaterally agree that that was not the person who should be in charge of education.
yeah. Someone who doesn't even really believe in public education. Someone who didn't send their kids to public school.
Yeah.
Someone who's a fundamentalist who wants to shove religion into public school.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, it's never all religions, it's my religion.
Yeah.
The problem with this country, we've gotten religion out of school. Oh, so you want to teach, Islam, Hinduism, Buddhism, Shinto? No, just mine.
Yeah. And just like even just basic knowledge of like education debates in general. Like she didn't even know the difference between like improvement versus mastery. Like which one should be prioritized. Like
Oh my gosh.
she literally just couldn't even like comprehend the difference.
Yeah. Honestly, just the fact that we both went to public schools. I think the two of us together could probably be more effective than her. I think anyone
Mm-hmm.
who did relatively well in public school is more qualified.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I believe this was a rather short video. Um, yeah, we're gonna try to cut back on time so you don't have to endure 25 minutes of us. Yeah, that was the DIY untraceable gun kits, gun control in general, and Betsy DeVoe's paranoia of grizzly bears. So thank you guys for watching. See you next week.